9.5 Global FM, your number one source for R&B in the Bahamas. Yeah.
Global 99.5 FM reminds our listeners that the views and opinions expressed on this show are those of the host and guests and not necessarily the opinions of the owners of Global Communications Network and the
Today can be the turning point in your life by making a simple decision.
Fundamental questions of navigation. Where am I? Where am I going? And how do I get there from here?
I invite the leaders of our planet to ask themselves these three questions before they make any crucial decisions.
But if you don't make decisions, you're going to stay right where you are.
We are all map makers.
We are in a time of transition.
If we're going to change, we have to change the direction that we're going.
Our planet needs leaders who know where they want to go.
When we change the direction we're going, then we want to make sure we're going in the right direction.
Leaders who can see the big picture.
Because if we're not, we're going to either go backwards or we're going to stay where we are.
Recognizing the psychological and the spiritual shifts and changes that need to be made, often from the inside to the outside.
To be able to shape your future, you have to be willing and able to change your paradigm.
Complex journeys require navigation. The path to the truth is one such journey. This is your GPS. Hairstyling services provided by J.D. Edwards Salon and Spa, Palmdale Shopping Plaza, Madera Street. Accessories provided by Chevette Williamson Jewelry. Standout jewelry for standout women. Good afternoon, one and all, and welcome to GPS, Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. I am your host, Michelle Malcolm. And as always, it's a pleasure to be in your company today. Thank you so much for tuning in and making GPS a part of your afternoon, especially on a Friday afternoon, because we know that every Friday around these parts, it's an open line show where you get an opportunity to speak your mind. The telephone numbers to call, 3260271, 3260271, 3260272, 3260272, and the WhatsApp line for text messages only 8010271, 8010271. So, before we dive into our TGIF activities, we have a sponsored segment to open up the show. Jason, go ahead and bring our guests into the studio. And we have persons in with us today who are representing the Department of Social Services. They have several events that are going on that are being planned, and they're here to promote those events and tell us all about what's happening. So welcome to you all. I only see Cheryl, whose camera is on. I see others are there. Dave Williams is there, but his camera is not on yet. And also Sharon Martin. So Cheryl, let's begin with you, seeing that we can actually see you. And then and then we'll get the other conversation as well. Welcome to GPS.
Well, welcome. It's a pleasure to be here.
So Dave, you on Cheryl phone there?
Yeah, on my phone I have the same. Let me try so I can come back in on my phone.
No. The two of y'all can use the same phone instead of doing that. If it ain't working, it ain't working. Welcome to you both then.
Yes.
Now, tell us what's happening. What are you guys here to promote today?
Okay, as you know, I'm representing the International Men's Day Bahamas Committee. We're in partnership with the Department of Gender Social Services in preparation for the Women's Week. And over the last 3-4 years, we've actually always partnered together. And International Men's Day is promoting a number of events this upcoming week. November 19th actually is the actual date. International Men's Day was started in around 1999 by Jerome Tilak Sink out of Trinidad. And with a focus on positive role models, the theme for this year is Men Leading by Example. And we recognize that the theme in partnership with the women's movement is embracing the family. And so we recognize the only way the family can get started is by men getting back into our rightful role. Because we know the statistics indicate that maybe as high as 75% of homes are led by single parents.
Yeah.
And we believe that the only way, or not the only way, but one of the ways that we can bring the family back together is by getting us as men back into our rightful places. And that's why for the International Men's Day, Men Leading by Example, we want to highlight and focus on positive things that men are doing. And we're encouraging our men to be a positive role model. IMD is founded on 6 pillars. It talks about valuing male role model, acknowledging the contribution of men and boys, improving male health. Also talk about dealing with discrimination and disadvantage of men. It also talks about a safer space for men, right? And as a result of it, we have a number of activities. And also the key thing, I believe, first is the spiritual. And second, I think as men, we need to be more empowered. And so I'm partnering with Dr. Bartlett and a number of others as we seek areas to empower our men. I believe if we as men can be empowered, and I'm talking about first financially, right? Next is spiritual, the financial empowerment. It would help us being in a better role to get back into our families, to support, just to encourage them. But what we're planning, Michelle, as you know, for me, is always a church service coming up. That's this Sunday, day after tomorrow, on Chapel on the Hill, 4 p.m. Our speaker is Pastor Reverend Anthony Sands. He is the president of Prison Fellowship, which I'm a part of, a board member of Prison Fellowship Bahamas. And he's going to share some information as to how, as men, we can be empowered, because I believe that education is the key. We must educate our men. We must educate them in terms of the financial, the spiritual, the physical, the mental empowerment. And so Reverend Sands will be our guest speaker at Chapel on the Hill, 4 p.m. That's this Sunday. And I want to encourage as much men, boys, and other organizations. And we invite the ladies too, because Prison Fellowship Bahamas ladies will actually be out supporting their president. And so we want to invite them out. There'll be some light refreshments that we want to serve to all of our guests. But we want to encourage you, be on time, 4 p.m. And ironically, we'll also carry it live. We're looking to carry my show, as you know, Transforming Lives on Global 99.5. And so we want to carry the first hour of the program live from 4 to 5. And then Monday, which is November 13th, we want to go into the schools. And so we have already sent a letter to the necessary persons, Director of Education, and made contact with principals, inviting them to allow us to speak to our boys at the various schools. And for those persons listening here, you can reach out to me at 433-6917. That's 433-6917. And Monday is the target date. But if you schedule assembly on another day, we'll still make some of our men available to share with our boys. And then Tuesday will be off. But as for Wednesday, we're going to do a walkabout in the Rock Crusher area. And so we're going to meet on the corner of Lightburn Avenue and also Farrington Road. Now, myself and Dr. Carlos Ray had an opportunity through the Brotherhood, another group that I'm a part of, an alternative to gang. We were able to walk through the area and visit with the mother of the young lady that was killed. We was able to talk with a number of the young men in the community. And so IMD, the Brotherhood led by Dr. Reid, Prison Fellowship, Reverend Anthony Sands. We also will have Urban Renewal partnering with us as a part of this initiative, as we want to go into the Rock Crusher community to talk and to share and to encourage, especially with our young men. And then Friday night, we're having a Stop the Violence concert at the park in Montel Heights. Now, someone asked me, why Montel Heights? The idea is to go into the inner city, into the community. Is this what we want to do? We have a number of our persons, Big Bro, Leroy Butler, a number of others, Barry G, Peter Rounds, Christian Massive will be leading out in this concert. That's Friday night, the 18th of November at the park in Montel Heights. And I think I can also say, Michelle, I know there are some events that Global is planning for that entire day in the Montel Heights community. So it was so timely as we seek to reach out to our persons in the community, but in particular, our young men. And then on November 19th, that's the climax. We will be having a award ceremony where a number of men will be receiving awards showcasing the work they have done within the community. It is expected that the Honorable Minister Obi Richcombe will be our keynote speaker. And we're trying to actually get the Prime Minister. He was our keynote speaker last year, but an incident took place in Bimini and it was cancelled in terms of him being the keynote speaker. Simply because the Prime Minister, the Honorable Philip Brave Davis, was actually, believe it or not, he was actually the founder of the IMD. Saw it happening him and Minister Mitchell in another country, and they brought it to the Bahamas, and that's how it actually got launched here. And so that's the plan. It will be held at the Muriel at the Thomas A. Robinson Stadium. When you drive past the stadium and you are heading south, if you look to your right, you will see a mural, and the Bahamas is the only country in the world among 80 countries that celebrate International Men's Day that has a mural. And so we're going to have the event there 3 p.m. That's November 19th, Saturday, November 19th, honoring men and boys from numerous Family Island as well as New Providence. So this is not Nassau-centric. You're saying something?
We got to get the other guests in as well now, because y'all only booked 15 minutes. I can't let you take up.
Sorry. I thought it was 15 minutes apiece. Thanks. I'll hand the phone over to her.
Dave, you're taking over.
You eating up all the time, man. We got other people who want to talk too.
Yes, Dave.
Go ahead, Miss Martin.
Dave is so enthusiastic that he, I'm feeling some of that energy myself.
Yes.
Because we have toiled and made so many put in so many hours to celebrate this entire month. And I'm here today because I'm a part of the entire celebration, but in particular the Memory March. It's called a Memory March because as we celebrate the women suffragettes who would have made that journey to enable women in the Bahamas to vote, and that would be now 60 years of all that coming down to us. And so we really needed to stop and do that celebration. So on Sunday past, there would have been a beautiful launch of an exhibition in Parliament Square. It's not there right now because of Nicole, so we would have had to take that from off of Bay Street. So it will be going back so very soon. So
are you and Cheryl in the same office?
Hold a second for me, please.
I'm going to turn your audio down.
That's me.
Yeah, mute your microphone.
Back. Right.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask Ms. Knowles. So yes, it's Ms. Knowles. So I'm going to ask her to just give us a little overview of some of the events that have been planned for the month. And then I can talk a little bit more about the Memory March. I'm excited.
All right, Miss Cheryl Knowles, take it away.
Good afternoon, Miss Malcolm. Good afternoon, Bahamas. It's a pleasure to be here this afternoon to promote such a wonderful occasion in history. And so because of time, we're going to run through quickly. So on the 20th, we have our church service at Evangelistic Temple, 8:30 a.m. We're asking all persons to come out and celebrate. On that afternoon in Pompey Square, Women United is having a documentary that everybody should want to see. This documentary was done by Dr. Marion Bethel. And of course, Ms. Martin spoke about the Memory March. We are going to replicate what was done, and we want to encourage the entire Bahamas to come out and celebrate and participate as we promote not only what the women would have done to put us in the position 60 years later since women have voted in the country. We want to celebrate families. We want to celebrate everyone because everyone played a role in making sure that this happened and we can celebrate such an awesome, awesome time in our country. And so also Dr. Bartlett will more or less speak to something special that she is doing to help empower person economically in the country. Back to you, Ms. Martin.
Thank you, Ms. Knowles. November 27th at 2:30 p.m., the march kicks off. That is what she's talking about, the memory march. And so what we're doing, we're replicating what the women did back in the day, 60 years ago, when they would have marched from the building right next to St. Agnes Church, right next to St. Agnes Church. So that's where we're gathering. We're going to be right on the park, and then we march from the park. We go to Government House and we pretend, and we get the feel of what they would have done to march from there to Government House to lay their petitions. Then we move off of there, and then we go on to the Navy Line Road and march into Bay Street. Now, this is not when you hear people talking about a march, you think it's violence and all that. That's not what this is. This is for families to come out and experience history. We're inviting family members of these suffragettes. They're very much still alive, children, grandchildren. They're Allison Maynard Gibson. Everybody knows her. Everybody knows C.V. Hope Strachan, and they are those families, the legacy that has been left. And too often in our country, we don't celebrate each other, and we don't tell the stories of each other. We what we do is we bypass, and we think that, oh, that person is that's not worth it or whatever. But we are not doing that. We are asking everyone, lodges, churches, Carver Club, we're asking you to come out. You know why? Because these ladies belonged into those organizations. They belonged in the ACW. They belonged in the lodges. They belonged in the political parties. Even though they did not make their political divide stop them from getting together and making this happen. So it's history all over again, and we invite you to come. 2:30 we leave St. Agnes and we march off. So we're asking you to be there on time, be there by 2 o'clock, so that our marshals can know that you're there for security reasons. And just let's have what I call an epic time. And I can sit here and talk about this all day, because talking to and I had invited one of the daughters, and I get excited because I talk to the families. And in one of the episodes, she tells me how mama got them dressed, which would have been Eugenia Lockhart, and they got dressed, and they didn't know where they were going, but mama said, come, put on your clothes. And then Dud Maynard came and picked them up, and Dud had this truck, but it didn't have no bottom, so they had to put the board across, and they had to sit down, and then he drove them down to St. Agnes Point, and they were coming from Peter Street, and they came from all over. And in my prayer right now is for Grand Bahama, because Grand Bahama wanted to do their own memory march. They were getting ready. They had their date set. They were so excited, and of course Nicole. So we're praying for them, and because November 26th is the actual date that women voted for the first time in the Bahamas, and we're kicking it off in celebration on the 27th. It's an entire year. So anyone who still wants to have an event or do something to celebrate, I encourage the families. It's your legacy. Have something, do something, have a big legacy ball or something. I love to dress up.
Well, ladies, I want to thank you all for updating us on what you have going on in your various departments and the ministry. And We wish you all very well with all of those events that you have planned. I'm sure that you're going to make this schedule available to others on other platforms as well. So I want you to check out what social media, wherever else you are going to be publishing this information, to ensure that you have all of the dates and times and places at your fingertips. And we want Bahamians to come out in full force and support these events. Ladies, I know y'all have another appointment real soon, so y'all got to dash. Thank you so much for joining us here.
So much.
Thank you so much for having us, Michelle. We appreciate you.
All right. Thank you so much. Y'all take care. All right. So on this TGIF Open Line show, we are going to invite my good friend C. Allen to help us maneuver through the show, even though that's not typically what we do. But there is so much going on that, we started the conversation yesterday, and I'm sure quite a bit of the show today is going to focus on what we focused on yesterday, because this thing is growing and growing and growing and growing in terms of the implications for the Bahamas. But it is an open line show, C. Allen. So welcome to the show. And I already have a call on the line, so I got to accommodate them too. So
no problem. We can touch on everything. We can touch on anything they want.
Touch on anything? All right. You know me. I prepare some clips and stuff as well. But let's see where it goes. Welcome to GPS.
Hey, Michelle.
Hi.
I want to talk about Diabetes World Day.
Okay.
Okay. Monday, that's November the 14th, I think the world is celebrating Diabetes Day.
Mm-hmm.
And my daughter is 12, and she is diabetic. She is type 1. And my wife and I and her, we're putting on a live web show, which is going to be her first show, and it's going to be her first performance, where she's going to be singing her first 2 songs. And we want to invite all of the Bahamians who is listening to your show. We want to encourage them to come check it out. There's information they can find information on Facebook. It's on my wife's page, Alicia Huncho. This is Kareem Huncho. And I wanted to give persons an understanding of our personal life, of what we are, a family living with a child with diabetes, and how we can now bring more awareness through Kaylee's story, through her music, and through her talents and her gifts, and just to get the public, like the general public, to know how, when we look out for our diabetes, how positive impact it has on our country in terms of our health.
Okay, so caller, here's what I want you to do. I want you to leave your name and contacts with my producer, because even though she has type 1, she can still be helped nutritionally. Now, she will always have to deal with it, because that's not something that you can completely eradicate, even with nutrition. But her symptoms could drastically be lessened with nutrition.
Can I just add something? The only thing, because she's had it from 3, and she's now 12. No, but I just want to say this: what has always been a challenge for us in terms of, because we've been in the process of feeding her the right things, but it's always been the challenge of food costs. And so this is why we are now taking the mantle to come forward, to share our story, to then get the community involved, to see how we can start to create industries that cater to persons with diabetes, so they could get the proper food. They could get it at the cost that they can afford it, so we can see the impact that getting the right food would actually have on their bodies, which could actually encourage the nation to kind of follow. We like to copy people. Changing our eating habits is something that we should all be trying to copy.
Yeah, but it's not just the food. She needs additional nutrition. But go ahead and leave the number with my producer.
I definitely will.
Yeah.
Kareem,
I have another call on the line.
Kareem,
all right.
Just go to the page and insert and put your wife link on the page so they can know exactly where to find out.
All right. Okay, I hope you heard that, caller. Okay, GPS, welcome to the show, caller.
Good day, Michelle. How are you doing today?
Excellent. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Good afternoon. C. Allen. JT. All right, I'm blessed, man. A few things quickly. I only caught the tail end of your the interview you had with those ladies earlier. So I don't know if they had mentioned the fact that Ruby Ann Cooper Darling was the first female who registered to vote.
They didn't.
She indeed was the first Bahamian female to vote after women had been given the right to vote in the Bahamas. So I wanted to mention her and to recognize and honor her. And I think she's still alive too.
She is.
Cheers.
Yes, indeed. Next point, in regards to the collapse of the Grand Bahama Lucaya deal, it was so sad when I heard that. But, I had a feeling, unfortunately, that was going to happen, Michelle. Because every time I heard a delay, further due diligence, I started to get uneasy about it going through. And unfortunately now, it imploded or exploded, whatever happened there.
Right.
JT, let me ask you a question.
Go ahead, buddy.
What impact do you think the hotel will have for the revival of the Grand Bahama economy?
I couldn't even tell you. So you living over there, you're the best person to answer that question in this context, Alan. But I could honestly tell you.
The reason I asked you is that the hotel was open before, along with the airport, and we were still suffering.
Right.
So the question then is, what is those two things will do? It's going to take a lot more than that.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I agree with that. The other thing too is, I saw an article online this morning, and when I say saw, for those folks who don't know, JT's computer talks to him, so that's how I'm able to read articles in Word. So that's my way of seeing. And yeah, I saw online an article about the FTX fallout or collapse or whatever happened there. And I don't know what to say about it except to say, wow, I was a little surprised when I heard that. I heard you guys talking a little about it yesterday. And I don't know, but I suppose you all will talk more about that. But that's two big things that this administration had been touting and promoting, and that has now gotten the big black eye. So hopefully they don't have a third strike. The other thing I wanted to mention, Michelle, two things actually in respect to the country. We're about to celebrate our country's 50th year of independence, quote unquote. And one of the things as a Bahamian I'd like to see in this country is that we talk more about the Bahamas, how us Bahamians traditionally used to live, the things we used to do, the foods we used to eat, the places we used to go, the activities we used to enjoy, the cultural experiences we all used to have. For me, that is something that is sadly lacking in the telling of our history, and it's sadly lacking in respect to to us as a people, reminding ourselves as to who we are and who we used to be. Well, like the Bimonites would like to say, who we used to was. So I just wanted to mention that to you as an idea that you might possibly, if you don't mind, looking into it as a topic for one of your shows one of these days. And to see, us Bahamians walk down memory lane and bring up a lot of these wonderful, good old things that we used to experience and do. And the last thing I wanted to mention, I think about Lincoln Bean and his group and the DNA and the minister, when they were all, in my view, harassed by the government of the day, quote unquote. Reason I mentioned those two incidents, Michelle, because as far as I know, our country's constitution provides for the freedom of assembly and the freedom of expression. Now, of course, you and I cannot go around and tell lies on people, because that, of course, is illegal, immoral and illegal. But when one is speaking truth or speaking facts, he or she has the right to speak those truths and facts based on the provision in our Constitution that gives us the right to the freedom of expression. So what puzzles me is that I don't understand why the police force, when persons are not breaking the laws of the road or, obstructing traffic, why the police would want to come and infringe upon somebody's constitutional right when, one, that's their right constitutionally, and number two, when they are doing it properly, then they're not breaking the statutory laws of this country. Can anybody answer that question for me? It may be a rhetorical question, but if somebody would want to actually, dive into that, I'd appreciate it, because I find it troubling that a lot of the people who are in power today and have been in power over the last 10, 15 years, who would have fought for you and me as Bahamians to have these rights constitutionally, are some of the very same people that are violating those rights that they fought to give you and I as Bahamian citizens.
Okay, so I get your point, JT. I'm not going to let you go on and on and on.
No, I was about to hang up. I'm done.
Quick answer: they do it because they know they can get away with doing it.
Yes, I was going to say
because you don't know your rights, and so they trample over it because you don't know your rights. Because why? And this is one of the reasons why we are doing the Masterclass Monday shows on the Constitution. Because if you know what your constitutional rights are, then you can stand up to it. If you don't, then they can do whatever they want to do. That answers the question.
And I appreciate you saying that, Michelle. But Lincoln Bain and the DNA, when they had been protesting, as far as I know now, and I stand to be corrected and clarified, but as far as I know, they were not breaking the traffic laws of the road by clogging up traffic. They were actually peacefully demonstrating, and they were still harassed. So my thing is,
but JT,
hey,
I've been involved with protests for the last 20 years in the Bahamas, organizing a lot of them from the behind. And it's always been a pushback or some indirect harassment or subjugating, trying to subdue the rights of Bahamians. The problem is what Michelle said is very true. And that's because most Bahamians have never been taught civics, constitutional governance.
Right.
And so they get to, when the police assert that this is their position. I'm one of those that when I came home, I saw people say they have to get permission to protest.
And they don't.
And they don't. I said that I checked and I spoke to a deputy commissioner at the time. He eventually became commissioner to simply ask the question. He says, "No, well, under the law, you're supposed to notify us for crowd control, et cetera, and safety."
Exactly. That's all it's for. Yeah.
Right. But the problem is that so many people believe that they have a right or that you need to seek. I've heard attorneys say this. Oh, they didn't have a permit. I've heard policemen say this. You didn't have a permit. No, you don't need a permit to march.
To demonstrate, exactly.
You need acknowledgement of it. And then they twist laws like the unlawful assembly, et cetera, et cetera. There's a twist. They twist these laws. But again, as Michelle said, it says, tune in on Mondays and listen. And then you could send your questions over to Michelle or put it up on the thing. And we could move to address those things because an educated voter is the most powerful voter that we have in the Bahamas.
Indeed. Thank you for your time, Michelle.
All right. Thank you so much for calling.
Sure.
Okay. We got to take a break. It's 2:34. I don't want to get too behind on the commercial breaks. And then we're going to dive into some hot topics. See, Alan, because boy, this was a week, eh? My God, from Zion. This week was a news person's dream week.
Yep.
As it relates to stuff that you could bite on for news purposes. So we got a lot to talk about, and we're going to dive into it on the other side of the break. Stay with us. This is GPS.
Understanding your microbiome, also known as your gut ecosystem, can change everything you thought you knew about nutrition, digestion, immunity, and metabolism. Keeping your gut ecosystem healthy and balanced is essential. Ultimate Microbiome by Longevity was specifically formulated to optimize this ecosystem. It provides the advanced support your gut needs through prebiotic, probiotic, and postbiotic supplementation. Our unique blend of probiotics includes Lactobacillus and Plantarum, healthy bacteria that can help prevent harmful bacteria from taking over your gut. Increasing your gut's population of beneficial bacteria creates a more balanced gut microbiome, which has been shown to aid in weight loss, skin health, sleep, mood, and may even help with seasonal allergies. Ultimate Microbiome also promotes the production of postbiotics. Postbiotics are key to help regulate your gastrointestinal health. To enhance digestion, Digizyme Multi-Enzyme Complex, a blend of 5 specific enzymes, has been added to Ultimate Microbiome. It can help break down food so your body can better absorb nutrients. Plus, we've added our proprietary I-26 hyperimmune egg powder to aid in the elimination of disease-causing gut bacteria and help your body balance its immune response. Ultimate Microbiome, the scientific, proprietary, and holistic approach to gut health that helps optimize your body's entire gut ecosystem. To learn more, contact your longevity associate.
Welcome to Sunshine Auto, the hardest place on the planet for a rim fix and tires.
We are your auto superstore for rims, Lexani, Azaras, Trueform, Western, Lux, Fuel, Tracklight, Tough, Rough Racing, Velocity, Mud, All-Terrain, and low-profile tires, cars, homes, and commercial window tinting. At Sunshine Auto, we put God first and customer is king.
Blessed love.
To stay healthy, it's crucial to make sure you get the nutrition you need every day. But it's difficult to get all your recommended vitamins and minerals from food alone. Even in the United States, 94% of people are deficient in at least one nutrient. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 by Longevity is a simple, convenient, and affordable way to help your body get the essential nutrients it needs. It's an advanced plant-driven multivitamin mineral complex that contains certified organic whole foods, trace minerals, and antioxidants. BTT 2.0 supports your body's natural defense system with a proprietary blend of energy-boosting and body-loving nutrients, plus prebiotics, probiotics, amino acids, and enzymes that support digestion. With an unusually high ORAC score of 8,000, you get even more antioxidants to help combat free radicals that can cause damage to your cells. But to get the most benefit and value from any multivitamin, your body must be able to break down the nutrients so you can fully absorb them. Otherwise, they'll just pass through your system without doing any good. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 was specially formulated with synergizing cofactors to ensure you get maximum nutrient absorption. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 is the easiest way to give your body the balance and complete daily vitamin mineral supplement it needs for optimal support of your overall health. To learn more, contact your longevity associate.
This portion of GPS is brought to you by Tiki Bikini Hut at Junkanoo Beach. Great food, cool tropical drinks, and family fun in the sun. Welcome back to this TGIF Open Line show here on GPS. Every Friday, we give you an opportunity to be our co-host as we talk about the week that was. And C. Alan Johnson has joined me this week to help us maneuver through all of this news. Oh God, there's so much to talk about. We thought that maybe Hurricane Nicole was going to be the big story, but Hurricane Nicole was a joke compared to Hurricane FTX. My God. Now, I see Siobhan is asking to ask you your opinion, but Siobhan clearly missed our show yesterday, Siobhan Hollis. So Siobhan, I need you to go watch the show from yesterday because we
don't leave the show now. Watch it later. Don't leave the show. Just keep watching.
Yeah, don't leave the show now. But at your leisure, go and watch that show from yesterday because we spent the entire 2 hours talking about the FTX situation. Now, there's been some new developments since our show yesterday. This is like a continuing saga. There's been new developments since yesterday. See, Alan, boy, this thing getting deep.
Yes, this is gonna be for a long time, and this is now gonna cross borders. The neutral tax agreement, because what happens is he took all of his companies around the world except for about 3 or 4 of them. Now, people have to understand is that FTX is about 130, 40, 150 different companies. It's not one company. He had companies after companies after companies around the world. He has taken all of them into the U.S. except for about 3 of them. One of them is in the U.S. That's a derivative company. And I find it interesting that he did not take the Bahamian company into the U.S. for bankruptcy.
What you think that means exactly?
Well, first of all, we have to understand, I've been investigating to find out when did FTX come to the Bahamas. And I found that they have been here incorporated since July. He was here before July of last year. That's before the election. And his companies were incorporated in July
July of which year?
2021. They
So even though it was,
FTX is only 3 years old, you know. There's
I
a lot
know.
of people, right.
No, I ask you that because it was launched, for want of a better word, in April of 2022 here in the Bahamas. But you're saying that it was incorporated long before then, from July of 21.
Yeah, it was not only incorporated, but it was also set up that a company, FTX Property Holdings Limited, was also set up to begin to hold those same assets that you see now being held and seized by being held or seized by the Securities Commission. And those were, if you see the number of buildings that he bought, like he bought the buildings from Sabas, he bought some other properties and land. So there's a lot of people made some pretty pennies. So a 10% commission on land sales, legal fees, about $70-80 million worth of property that we know of so far.
I saw in a post in a chat that I'm in where somebody said, if you could look at a silver lining from this, because of all of the land that they grabbed up, that high-end properties, that the costs on high-end properties here in New Providence especially shot up because they were grabbing up so much land. And now maybe the prices will become more reasonable again. So the government has since frozen the assets of FTX that they can freeze.
Yes.
Does that mean that all of those properties now, what does that mean exactly?
Those properties now go in escrow for the receiver to make a determination. Is there any outstanding debt? Now, what happens now is that the question we have to ask ourselves is, will the U.S. Chapter 11 bankruptcy, remember we spoke about the types of bankruptcy, Chapter 7, 11, and 13. Chapter 11 is a reorganizational environment to keep the companies functioning, to allow restructuring and income and other things to continue to be able to say, by running the company, will pay the debt back. Another interesting aspect of that is the person that wound up Enron, the big Enron that case, is now the CEO of all of those companies, except for the Bahamian companies and the derivative company.
So what do you think that means, Helen? Why do you think
what
that
happens is that means that two things. It means that we didn't pay a significant role as we would like to believe in regards to his operations. And that's very important because we portrayed ourselves as this is his headquarters and we had jurisdiction over him. These actions prove that we were nothing more than a dress, a suit for him to put on to represent to the world that he was operating from the Bahamas, because none of these companies exist in the Bahamas. None of these 130 companies. Let's hold at 135 companies. None of them existed in the Bahamas except for two companies that I've found so far. So that means that he basically put on the credibility of the Bahamas while continuing to operate from his other jurisdictions. And now that he's facing crisis, now I understand that these companies could all be rounded up in the other jurisdictions they are. What is the connection we have to understand is that he had extremely tight relationship that got his companies shot or killed by the other people, by CZ, for the very CTCF or whatever the commission that's trying to regulate cryptocurrency. That he had such a buddy-buddy relationship. And now that here it is that you have all these integrated and interconnected companies and all of these other connected currencies, he voluntarily decided to take all of his corporate structures from around the world and dump them in the United States for protection. It basically said to me that he is voluntarily giving them jurisdiction and access to all of his books.
What does that mean?
As I'm saying to you, it means that he's facing some real legal problems and maybe some prison time in the U.S. And the best
But
thing,
not just him. I mean, not
people. Yeah, I mean, so what they're doing is they've made a calculated effort to simply say, let's go and cooperate and throw ourselves down at the mercy of the United States justice system by giving them access to multiple. Remember, this is not only the 135 or 130 companies that he has control of. This is billions of dollars. If you look at the number of the companies that's involved with him, I mean, you could go down the list. Ever Gideon Capital, FBC Capital, Greylock Capital. These are big company names. IVP, Lux Capital, Paradigm. These are big companies in the U.S. And this becomes an argument concerning even tax purposes. Remember, they have been trying to track down taxes on these cryptocurrencies and these hidden assets and off the books and all these different things. And so, but when you begin to look at these companies and you look at maybe a few dozen of these, or maybe 100 of these or so, and multiply that, you will see that the exposure, the contagion is huge beyond anything that we've seen. This may even be bigger than the Enron deal.
But see, you're missing the point, but I'm trying to get at, Alan. The point I'm trying to get at is this. There's a reason you believe that they filed for bankruptcy in New York as opposed to someplace else.
Yes.
Why is that?
Cooperation. They are cooperating with the U.S. government now.
What does that mean potentially for some Bahamians?
No, right. Here's what happens is there's two agreements. I'm trying to look for the name. We have the tax exchange agreement. Even though we are not part of that, hold on a second. Let me find the name of it. We're not part of that agreement, right? There's something called MLAT, which is Mutual Legal Assistance Treaty. Let me explain what it means. It means as they began to dismantle these companies and they begin to connect with the FTX, digital markets in the Bahamas, they could very easily reach into the Bahamas in spite of that company not being listed to demand information on that company and its relationship to these other 135 companies. Then we have it's a tax exchange agreement. We have the Convention on Mutual Administrative Assistance in Tax Matters, which again falls right back, as much as we might like to believe, back on this Bahamas digital markets. Now, let me tell you where possible ramifications are. I want people to understand, I'm not saying this. If there was undue financial influence that got him to where he needs to be in the Bahamas, we could have a repeat of the Fred Ramsey case that we had with BPL or BEC as we call it, because what it says is that none of these are American companies or within American jurisdiction. Any bribe and any influence, anything that is given, induce favor to move towards a position is a crime in the United States. And in the same way that we chose to have Ramsey tried here dozens of years after the crime was committed, there's a possible exposure politically because this company is politically connected. You saw the exposure after the election and the things that got accomplished in record time concerning the National Economic Council and other places. Because so what you're just hoping now that we just took a blow to our image in the financial services. We're hoping that when these two international treaties intersect with this company, even though it may have been through mutual agreement, don't include this company. It's a small thing on your multi-billion dollar, $32 billion so far portfolio. It's only $100 million, including the unknown expenses. This is $70 million worth in property. We don't know what was paid in legal fees and other fees and whatever else fees and setup fees and favor fees and salaries and all those other different things. Because remember, that money, people have to understand, in spite of the FTX digital markets in the Bahamas, he didn't randomly pull that money out of the air. That company had to get funding and start up out of one of these other companies. So even though an attempt may be being made to say, oh, it's already in Bahamians' court, in a wind-up or being held by our security exchange, they could very easily make a request, or we could simply make a request to preserve our integrity, to make sure that nobody around the world is excluded from the assets in the Bahamas, because we could simply look at the Bahamian people who may have liabilities against it. If it's less than the 70 million, then we could make sure that we simply say, okay, we have an agreement. We will, our Securities Commission will stand down on this. you assume this, and we want an agreement that the Bahamian liabilities will be first be made whole. But what I'm simply want people to understand is that we are not clear. We are now deep into this from a legal perspective, and I'm hoping that the image of us being a society of, we already know when we go to the places, you got to pay, you get it done. I go to the passport office, I wait, or to I get my car license. If I don't want to wait, I just go do something. That's become a culture. It could very well now come back to us because he will have to account. If you say, let's say he transferred $150 million into FDM. Yes, you may seem like, oh, that's $150 million that's accounted for. No, you now must account for how that $150 million was spent. All these expenses he's paying in the Bahamas is not separate and apart from these other 130 companies.
So you think it's possible that some high-ranking Bahamian names could get called in a U.S. court once they start digging into his affairs?
Absolutely. It may be a year or two from now. And what I'm saying to you, this could be a very huge black eye to our financial services. First of all, we promoted ourselves as a regulator of digital currencies, when in essence we did not regulate digital currencies. What we were trying to do is regulate a digital exchange that handled digital currencies. We had no control over any of those billions of dollars of digital currencies, derivatives, and stuff that was on that exchange. So you see where we were screaming, we're a digital destination for cryptocurrency. No, you're not.
I want to read some a series of text messages. I'm a part of a chat group, and someone in the chat group placed these messages that was sent to them privately by a client of theirs. And I want to read that. It says, they should have put the right measures in place to prevent this kind of activity. I will personally not be storing my funds in any exchange that is licensed out of the Bahamas going forward. Quite frankly, the government should be supporting the investors who lost money in this due to poor oversight. It's an absolute shame that this is happening, and the biggest scandal to ever take place in the Bahamas to date. Who knows if public officials are involved in this as well? I'm sure they are if this is what's happening and they're able to misappropriate $6 billion of customers' funds. What a joke. Bahamas should not be in this business. They don't have the capability of regulating this or the know-how. Now, I'm assuming that is a foreign person who would have put that information, sent those texts to the person who put them in the group. So this is already giving us, like you said, a black eye.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Because what happens is we were actually promoting ourselves as a controller of digital currencies, but we didn't have no control of digital currencies.
Now, my question is though, is that a fair? Is that fair to the Bahamas? That viewpoint.
Now it is fair now, because what happens is that person, if you look at the marketing and you could always say he should have been a more astute investor. But if you listen to what all Bahamians believe, Bahamians actually believe that we were regulating currencies. We were not.
In all fairness, Alan, we've seen things happen in jurisdictions like the United States, very similar activity. And nobody is saying the United States needs to get out of this business because they don't know what they're doing. So how is that the playing field? Is it because we are a smaller territory and they figure,
No, this because if you look at the major economies around the world that has been trying to manage and get a hold of this cryptocurrency environment, this is where this again comes back to these pseudo people who believe they know cryptocurrency, who now believe they are in a DeFi environment. FTX was not a DeFi, a decentralized finance environment. It was a centralized finance environment. It was a CeFi. It simply was a CeFi on top of another platform, because it was centralized where your things is changed. Decentralized finance doesn't have an intermediary in between it. And so the fact is that so many people who's on these platforms who claiming that they represent DeFi because that's what Bitcoin is. Well, if you believe in DeFi, you wouldn't be on a centralized platform. And so when you begin to say, oh, it gives anonymity, it doesn't do that on a centralized platform. This is why I could use big data right now and go back and tell you almost crunching data, go back and tell you who owns almost every wallet in the world, going back to maybe about 2012 before 2011 before it jumps off, because it was a small group of us that held wallets in BTC before it became this big bang. When we were holding these things, when this was $1 and $5 and $10, when nobody wanted it. And so because there was such a small group of us, we only need to identify who was these 100, 200 people that held these wallets, and then follow how it winged out. You could then figure out all the people I sent crypto to, and who they sent it to, and who they sent it to, until it comes all the way back to me. And so you only need to do that probably because it was not in spite of all these people who claim to be experts, it was only a couple hundred of us on Bitcoin. Okay, don't let these people talk, but they've been in Bitcoin forever and ever and ever and ever. It's like you get to retroactively modify the story of how your involvement with Bitcoin was from the beginning. I just listen to them because it really will make a difference to me. But what I'm simply saying is now, what you have now is you have the United States. Consider the power of the United States financial exchanges controlling the money around the world, and China and Russia and Japan and the rest of them. And they have, the United States government has billion-dollar budgets, trying to deal with these issues in come of regulations. We came up with like a 5-10 page document that says, we solved what these major economic models and money people did. We solved it. We said we solved it in 10 pages. Y'all know what y'all doing. And then we went around saying, we were registering and we control. This was the place to percent for this is the place for innovation of digital currencies. That was not in the law. And so what we did is we sent a verbal invitation for people to come here and do these things, and they read and said, wow, that's an invitation. They're saying regulation is here for those things, but when we read the law, they don't have no regulation in this. Let's go take them up on their offer. And that's why they've come here. We don't have the ability. Our laws doesn't. You see how these 130 companies, if we were regulating FTX, when we did the seizure, we would have been able to reach into all of those jurisdictions and took a hold of those companies and the assets. We would have been able to seize the servers or take control of the servers that they're now going to surrender to the trustee in the U.S. and all the keys and passcode to the database, to the same what they call the data room, where all the information, all the connectivity is hidden. Even the crimes that's been committed is going to be surrendered as part of the data, forensic data analysis that's going forward. Notice that we only could have seized the properties in the Bahamas. We couldn't touch anything outside of the Bahamas. But we said we were regulating this to make the world safe and controlling. We couldn't. Up until they surrendered, they were still allowing withdrawals and things to happen from the platform. And for those of us that watch activities across wallets and stuff, activities were still going on even after the Bahamas government had claimed they had seized the assets. They did not touch the computer, the control, or the billions of dollars that still, understand this, there's still billions of dollars on this platform. Liquidity means these people information is locked away and they can't cash out. It doesn't mean that $32 billion worth of asset has gone anywhere. It means it's locked in their computer. And so again, it shows us, because we don't, first of all, Michelle, we don't have any data laws in the Bahamas. We don't have any digital laws in the Bahamas. We have laws that refer to data, talks about data. We have laws that talks about digital, but they are not laws that address digital in the purest sense of what digital is. We don't have laws that address data in the purest sense it is. See, when you begin to have to regulate cryptocurrencies, you have to have an anti-corruption law. You have to have a law for transparency. You have to have the law for integrity. You have to have a law for freedom of information. You have to have a law for anti-corruption. All of these laws that we have been fighting against for decades. So how could you have a regulation in an environment, in a not even, I mean, this is not even privacy laws we have. We practice secrecy laws. You cannot operate an open public exchange in the environment of, in the culture of secrecy. And so we've made these vague things and said things into the ether and thought that simply because we said it, it became true.
All right. Let's take this break. I didn't want this show to only be about FTX today because it is an open line show and people are still free to call in and talk about what you want to talk about. But clearly, the big story this week is this whole FTX catastrophe. So, not surprisingly, we're here talking about it again today. For those of you who are asking specific questions, if you didn't see yesterday's show, go back on Facebook or YouTube or wherever you watch the show after the fact and watch yesterday's show. We did an entire 2 hours dedicated to this, but there has been development since that show. This is an ongoing saga. So on the other side of the break, we're going to talk a little bit more about new developments as it relates to certain people stepping down as CEO, and this thing go deep. This like we like to see in the Bahamas, this could be long. Stay with us. This is GPS. We'll be back after these words from our sponsors.
Your body's immune system is under constant pressure from things like stress, lack of exercise, and toxins in the environment. It's crucial to be proactive and support your immune system with the nutrients it needs to function effectively. But it's often hard to get these nutrients from food alone. Introducing fast-acting Zinc Plus Immune Support by Longevity. Unlike zinc-only supplements, Zinc Plus Immune Support builds on the proven power of zinc and adds complementary nutrients to give your immune system extra support. Vitamin D helps balance the effects of zinc, while our proprietary blend of natural fruit and root extracts provides the extra help your immune system needs to work against daily stressors. And we've included Longevity's exclusive plant-derived minerals to give your body the minerals it needs, but can't get from food alone. And because Zinc Plus Immune Support is delivered in a great-tasting, sugar-free, berry-flavored lozenge, it encourages quicker absorption of all these nutrients into your body. Zinc Plus Immune Support. Zinc plus the extra support your body needs to promote a healthy immune system. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
Welcome to Sunshine Auto, the hardest place on the planet for a rim fence and tires.
We are your auto superstore for rims, Lexani, Azaras, Trueform, Western, Lux, Fuel, Tracklight, Tough, Rough Racing, Velocity, Mud, All-Terrain, and low-profile tires. Cars, homes, and commercial window tinting. At Sunshine Auto, we put God first and customer is king.
Blessed love.
It's gotten harder and harder to get your daily requirement of vital nutrients from food alone. Without additional vitamin and nutrient support, your health and well-being can suffer drastically. That's why Z-Radical was specifically formulated. It combines a blend of antioxidant-rich vitamins, minerals, and botanicals with the protective powers of fucoidan to help fill the gaps from lack of nutrients in your foods. The core of Z-Radical is fucoidan, a naturally occurring polysaccharide that helps stimulate immune reaction, protecting you against inflammation and oxidative stress. We harvest this powerful mineral-rich nutrient from brown seaweed, harvested only from the world's most pristine ocean waters to ensure the purest quality. It's then extracted using cold process technology to ensure maximum levels of bioavailability. Then we add essential vitamins that help to protect your cardiovascular and nervous systems and are crucial for optimal immune and neurological function. Z-Radical also includes a proprietary blend of delicious antioxidant-rich fruits and berries. This great-tasting combination helps your body combat free radical imbalances that can contribute to a variety of degenerative conditions like arthritis and heart disease. Z-Radical. Experience the power of fucoidan with antioxidant-rich berries, 8 essential vitamins, and more to provide you with potent health benefits. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
Welcome back to GPS Global Paradigm Shift on Global 9.5 FM. Michelle Malcolm on this TGIF Open Line show. And C. Allen has decided to join us on this show because a big part of this week was the fallout involving FTX and, more importantly to all of us, the implications of that fallout for us here in the Bahamas. The telephone numbers to call 3260271, 3260271, 3260272, 3260272. The WhatsApp line for text messages only 8010271, 8010271. Okay, so before we bring Cialan back in, I want to play a clip. This one talks about possible lessons that we as a jurisdiction can learn from this FTX fallout.
Huge thank you to everyone for making this a place that we could call home.
Back in April of this year, the FTX CEO and founder Sam Bankman-Fried, along with government officials, broke ground for a $60 million headquarters on West Bay Street. It's a move that the now embattled CEO at the time said the Bahamas would be the envy of the world.
It is unambiguously the case that prior to this, we did not have a home as a company. We did not have a place that we felt comfortable and excited about, that we felt like could be a long-term place for a headquarters for us. So it's been incredibly valuable for us. We're incredibly grateful. And I can say as well that a number of other countries are incredibly jealous of what you guys have done.
But some 6 months later, Freud is facing bankruptcy and a number of international investigations, including the alleged mishandling of funds. This coupled with a failed bailout from its rival Binance Group. Industry stakeholder Kevin Hobbs, CEO of Adventures Ventures, says the issues are concerning.
It's still really early from the reports of what we're seeing about the mishandling of funds. Obviously, it definitely is not a great situation at all, and hopefully FTX will do everything in its power to get users' funds back. But at this stage, it's kind of too early to tell what will happen. But so far, withdrawals are being made, and it seems like they're making best efforts to get everybody their funds.
Despite this, however, he highlights the need for better streamlining in the industry.
What this does is it allows for an opportunity to take a closer look behind the hood. FTX is still only very new here. It's only been, I believe, less than a year. And this is something that no one could predict.
But who's at fault? And did the Bahamas have a role to play?
Controlled out of the U.S., and it doesn't look like, from what we've seen so far, and things are still trying to unfold, that any of this really happened in the Bahamas here. So I don't think from a Bahamian standpoint that anything could have been done to prevent this, but moving forward, there are ways that the Commission and the government here can really work with experts in this space and projects in this space to kind of prevent something like this in the future.
Since the story broke earlier this week, many have questioned if the big dreams of FTX on a local level will ever materialize. During a town and planning meeting back in March, the group announced plans of promise and opportunity.
With this project, we'll create even more local jobs on top of the 40 we've already created, stimulate the economy, and construct a globally enviable campus that's comparable to your Apples or Googles. The Bahamas made a bold step, creating the most comprehensive digital asset regulatory regime in the world, and this is the next step in that vision.
And while the company may have been more than challenged to recoup or even find financing, Hobbs believes there is a silver lining.
I think that right now it kind of looks a little bit bleak, but the government here has been doing a lot of great things to bring world leaders in the crypto space here to the Bahamas. And this is just a chance for more education, more opportunity to bring more leaders here and work with the government on ways that we can get proper regulation to really create products that are going to work for every user and give Bahamians more access to opportunity in this space.
Meantime, FTX group of companies has commenced voluntary Chapter 11 proceedings in the United States to begin orderly process to review and monetize assets for benefit of global stakeholders. John J. Ray III has been appointed Chief Executive Officer. Sam Bankman-Fried has resigned as CEO, and it was announced today that West Realm Shires Services Incorporated Alameda Research Limited, and approximately 130 additional affiliated companies, together called the FTX Group, have commenced voluntary proceedings under Chapter 11 in the United States Bankruptcy Code in the District of Delaware in order to begin an orderly process to review and monetize assets for the benefit of all global stakeholders. So Sam Bankman-Fried has resigned his role as Chief Executive Officer and will remain to assist in an orderly transition. Many employees of the FTX Group in various countries are expected to continue with the FTX Group and assist Mr. Ray and independent professionals in its operations during the Chapter 11 proceedings. So,
pause right there.
Okay.
He did,
and make it quick because we have a call. Make it quick because we have a caller waiting.
Okay, that's it. He did not. He resigned from all those companies in that court filing. We have no evidence that he resigned from the Bahamas, from FTX Digital Markets in the Bahamas, or the other 3 companies that he kept in that jurisdiction. That's what we need clarification on, because that would mean that he's still CEO of these other companies.
Interesting. All right, we have a call on the line. Caller, welcome to GPS.
Thank you. I'm calling from Grand Bahama.
Hi.
And I just want to give a big shout out to some of our utility companies, because, we just went through this directly. And Grand Bahama Power did a fantastic job. They kept the lights on pretty much all the way through. In fact, mine went out at about 5 o'clock at my house, and at 1:30 in the morning, they cut my light back on. So they was actually out in the storm. Another company that was really doing good was the water company. They kept the water running throughout the entire time, and they was out in the storm fixing wells and fixing their RO plant and doing all kind of stuff, and they were keeping the water. And then after the all clear, we had our sanitation services out there, and they were cleaning up the little bit of debris on the road and all that. And those companies really, and the Grand Bahama Port Authority, and also some of the service organizations like Rotary, they was pumping water out of their little water plant, and they have a disaster committee that was helping people before the storm, that was putting tarps on roofs, and after the storm doing assessments and assisting people as needed. So we got a lot of people that we really need to big up here after this storm here in Freeport.
All right, thank you so much for the update. I was going to get to it a little later in the show because we did have the acting Prime Minister Chester Cooper, who did an assessment of the damage from the hurricane, as well as Ginger Moxie was on the ground in Grand Bahama, and they both reported that we were for the most part spared major damage. So it was all good news coming from them. So I was going to turn our attention to the show.
Yeah, and heaven forbid. Hold on, see, Alan, someone else is talking once. Heaven forbid if Nassau ever gets it, because that little bit of storm you got, and you got some crazy people over there driving their cars into that, what is it, Saunders Beach or whatever, that little thing, where they could see the water washing over the wall, and they still driving in there to looky-loo what's going on.
Yeah, some of our people are special, but it is what it is.
Going up there, I just want you to know that I was
those special people to stay over there and come over here.
Hey, I'm trying to bring them here to build our economy. But just
and really, to build our economy right here, we need at least 5,000 to 7,000 people a year moving from New Providence to Grand Bahama and opening a business and buying or building a house, and that's how we can grow our economy here. Because we have the infrastructure here. We have the roads. We have the utility companies. We have roads. You have horse and carriage. You have horse and carriage roads over there now.
But you just don't want the special ones to come. That's what you try to say, caller.
Well, we'll take the special, but not the extra special.
Right. But I just want to let you know, hey, caller, I just want you to let you know my light went off at 5 and came back on at 6:30, and I was pretty upset.
Yeah. Yeah, it's impressive. I mean, those guys, and they're going around now and doing improvements to their systems, both those companies, and I still see sanitation out, cleaning up. We just got some great infrastructure in Florida. We just need some people to move here and build our economy.
All right.
Because we can take a hurricane.
All right. Thank you so much for the update.
Okay.
We didn't prove that. We took 6 and 10 years.
All right. So since he went there, let's go ahead and play this clip from the assessment that was done by the acting Prime Minister Chester Cooper on how the Bahamas fared in the passage of Nicole. Here we go.
Oh, I think this is a good message that we haven't been significantly hurt in terms of our infrastructure, but the message still is that since Dorian, there hasn't been enough investment in infrastructure, and we need to focus on really getting Abaco back to the pre-Dorian levels at a minimum. So I think from the perspective of the port, Falsec, Pender, and Cornish have both pointed out the need to have this gateway restored so that there are facilities for employees to work from. There's a proper building for customs. And of course, there can be some remediation work, some engineering, really when there's high tide or some surges, really to protect the platforms that you have there. We understand there was some flooding there at the port. The waters came over maybe about a foot and a half, and these are the kinds of things that now we see has happened during this particular storm. The engineers are here, and they can make recommendations as to how we can remediate that for the future. No loss of life, no serious injuries. We're fared well. God is good.
You mentioned something during the NEMA broadcast last evening.
Ginger Moxie also gave an update as to the conditions in Grand Bahama. This is a short clip, so I'll go ahead and play this first, and then we'll go to the call on the line.
And Grand Bahama, I would say, fared very well. We're in West Grand Bahama, where there's been the flooding. There's a lot of seaweed on the streets that teams are clearing up, teams from beautiful Grand Bahama and other government agencies. And so we're really excited about what we see here because, Grand Bahama, we've just been going through it for a very long time. And so based on the initial assessment, I can safely say that we have done pretty well.
So thank God for his mercies. Let's go to the phone lines. Caller, welcome to GPS.
Hi. I just wanted to tell Seattle if he could get back on the topic about FTX, because that person throws Trump way off. I mean, we congratulate the workers in Freeport, but we need to be educated on this FTX situation.
Okay, can I make a point on the storm though? We can go back there. I just got to talk about what we need.
Thanks, caller.
Thanks.
Now, let me show you why it's important. Before we go back, I want to go back on the storm. The important for FTX. FTX literally can take down our second industry, which is financial services. And we're already on the OECD list and all these other people lists for doing shady or what they consider shady things, and even the things they do themselves. They say they don't see the things they do, they only see the things we do, and that's what the big boys do. And so every time we make a mistake, they could come down on us. And so essentially, digital assets, not cryptocurrency, digital assets, which include all of the aspects of digital assets, is the new financial services. Data is the new financial services. And here we are, we just open up a cesspool of information and go and real deal. So we'll come back to that. But for Grand Bahama, I think that nothing happened to us, nothing happened to Abaco for this tropical storm. But clearly the Deputy Prime Minister laid out that not enough has been done to restore us to where even Dorian came for them. But on Grand Bahama, we're still working from Francis and Jane. So we got a decade or more. But Francis and Jane, 20 years of repairs that we have to do for individuals who have not truly repaired their homes from almost 20 years ago. Because the economy has never put them in a position. That's why I'm one of those that demand that says the SERZ, the Special Economic Recovery Zone, be extended for both Grand Bahama and Abaco, and technology be used to limit the exposure of government to people unauthorized using it, because we could clearly identify the properties that falls under that, because we unlike New Providence, with houses that built on top of each other, leaning on each other, we actually have literally, at least from McLeanstown to Freeport, we have a structure, what we call a GIS study, where you actually have the organized land mass. And even when you go into 8 Mile Rock and West End very specifically, it's more spread out, and you could very easily use satellite images to document whatever. And then at 8 Mile Rock, we could simply do an audit. So we know exactly in advance what is needed. But here's the beauty about that. It will allow government to know in advance the impact that it'll have for 5 years. So if you go in and say you need $4 billion worth of repairs, you will already know in your budgeting what you could expect not to make money from. So you won't be surprised that you don't make money, as opposed to simply looking for money that's not there. So I think that we need to have a discussion, the use of extending the SARS, and we need to extend it for at least 3 to 5 years. Because how do you expect people to build back if they have no income to build? This is why you hear Rotary and others were putting tarps back on roofs. When you go to Google Earth, you see all them blue roofs. We don't have blue shingles in Freeport. Those are tarps.
Right.
And so what we need is a sensible conversation, because again, like we spoke about the people moving to Grand Bahama. On Grand Bahama, for the price of an acre on New Providence, we touched on the FTX land. You could get, for the price of an acre on New Providence for $200,000. We'll give you a quarter acre in New Providence for $200,000. We'll give you a quarter acre, and we'll throw in a free house if you're willing to pay $200,000 for the quarter acre. We'll throw in a 1,600 square feet house free of charge on the quarter acre that we'll sell you for $200,000, which is really we're gonna sell you the land for $20,000. We're gonna build you the house for $180,000.
All right, that's a good deal. Okay, so let's get back to this FTX situation now, because a lot of people are really learning, or just now becoming interested in this whole question of the crypto market since FTX came here. I mean, you guys have been talking about it for a very long time, C. Allens, you and a handful of others. But because they came with such a big bang, they caught a lot of attention.
Not bank, with a big bank.
A combination of the two. Boy, they thrown around plenty money, eh?
Yep. But proportionately for a multi-billion-dollar company, you saw that they were giving us change, book bags, here's some feeding money and whatever. They were spending that much on lunch.
Right.
And you're gonna find out. We're gonna find out very soon how little we valued what we have. People have heard me say that the Bahamas is the most digitally prepared country in the world. Freeport, if treated as another country, would be the second most digitally prepared country in the world. Digital preparedness is not digital utilization. We have become consumers of electricity. And the Bahamas is the only place in the world, as I know of to date, that can give constitutional data privacy, constitutional data protection, and constitutional data sovereignty. So in essence, if we were to begin to offer these, Michelle, and you have control of your data by even digital citizenship for people that are not citizens in the Bahamas, I just want you to imagine 1 billion people around the world. You remember ASCAP and BMI, where you could own the rights to your music and get paid for whenever somebody play it? Imagine owning your data, and whenever Facebook, Google, any one of them use it to make any money, they got to give you a percentage of it. That's the type of ownership we could create in the Bahamas where data is being owned. And so we will become the data capital of the world. The $1 trillion company called Alphabet, the $1 trillion company called Google, the $1 trillion company called Amazon is data companies. If you say the rules is that when you have data on our citizens, digital or otherwise, that you have to have a presence in the Bahamas and actually have a server here in the Bahamas, we could have a massive build-out of technology infrastructure, because they will have to keep their data here to access the money-making aspect of their business, which is data. Data privacy has become the huge industry right now. This is why Apple is shutting out Google and the rest of them. They're now having to adjust their earnings statements to the tune of hundreds of billions of dollars, because they no longer have access to the data. So here it is that Apple and other people are now isolating the data. Wouldn't it be nice for us in the Bahamas to say, Michelle, how can Apple or Google isolate your data and it's yours? Take ownership of it by registering yourself in the Bahamas. And just imagine we only get $5 commission of the 1 billion people per year just for having a registry. So what happens is this is the new data economy. And we have the opportunity to shape it. And I'm hoping, for the rare fact that digital assets, which we call cryptocurrency, is just a small part of digital assets. I mean, so small it's a blimp on the radar, that we didn't allow such a small thing to destroy such a huge opportunity. And so we can have a conversation on what legislation we have to digitize the economy. This thing about what the government is saying is like trying to digitize a business. We have spent 25 years and maybe $2 billion in the Bahamas on technology, and the government is yet to be able to give you paperless documents. You have companies that's been built for less than for hundreds of millions of dollars or $1 million, and we have spent just 25 years of 30, 40, $50 million a year, and we can't get paperless document. You can't get ZNS to stream to YouTube, the Parliament channel, on a consistent basis, even though they get $4 million a year, if they're still in the budget to doing it. Just imagine that you get $4 million a year to stream to YouTube to do exactly what you're doing right now, Michelle. And we have not been able to do it yet. And so, and that's exclusively to the parliamentary channel. And so what I'm saying is we have to stop pretending in the real world that we are digital. We're not. We're digital consumers. But we could create laws that is actual digital laws, that is actual data laws, not talking about them, that actually transform the economy. And they're running on this. We have to understand is that our leadership wants to be the one to say they know everything. Look at the leadership around the world, from the president of the United States to Canada, to the prime minister of Canada, or the prime minister of the UK, or the Chinese premier. None of them running around saying, I know about roads, I know about parks, I know about doing these things. They put proper people in their place who follow their vision, their directive, their policies. But we have members of parliament running now, trying to be expert on roads and seawalls and hurricanes and all these other different things that they're the expert on. And so what you do is you find people who is capable of doing these things, and you focus on what we send you to parliament for, to create legislation, policy, programs, and processes. That's all we send you for, not to run anything. You'd imagine that the MP is running around saying, I'm patching the road. Wait a minute, don't we pay $400 million a year the Ministry of Works to patch the road? Why would the MP doing patching it?
Interesting. Do you believe that this whole situation with FTX's fallout, do you believe that this is sort of the beginning or a major part of the journey towards a huge financial reset?
It is. What FTX did inadvertently has given countries armor to go after centralized cryptocurrency, where they've come with these so-called platforms and derivatives and other things. They've given them armor to go after them now, because they're saying, look at it. When you look at the list of the major companies that got bamboozled and brought into FTX story, because what happens is he was able to dress this poison up so nicely that it even tastes sweet. And now we're beginning to see the effect on the body of the digital, of the cryptocurrency, not the digital assets now. This have nothing to do with digital assets. Even though our laws focus says digital assets, we are locked and loaded into cryptocurrency. We are now seeing that digital asset registration, whatever the DARE stands for, does not regulate digital assets or digital cryptocurrency. It only regulates the companies for registration in the Bahamas, because this, if we have laws that says we do, because I think there's number 9 or number 15, I don't remember in the legislation or whatever, that if you read it, FTX is not supposed to be able to do what they did, because they were supposed to actually show proof of these monies and commingling funds. But here's the problem: even though our exchange or our regulatory body did it, they only had control over FTX digital markets. They had no control over the 130 other companies, none. So you can't impose those requirements on the other companies. And so you have to understand that these companies may be shells and multiple things. So you have to now be able to understand, not from a Google standpoint, on how the infrastructure of building for cryptocurrencies work. This is not a use. You don't create laws for the use. To regulate it, you must create laws for the creation, the back office of these. Because, you know, you could say, what, we're going to regulate drinking sodas, but you don't regulate what goes into the sodas or how it's made or sanitation and all these different things. You don't do any of those things. And so, and this is where, and our leadership played both this administration and the previous, played to the ignorance of individuals. People could go and check the record. When the DARE bill was passed in 2020, I was on the record on the radio station saying, this is going to end badly. The record is there. I said, this is going to end badly. In fact, Michelle, our DARE bill opens the door for money laundering. It opens the door for terrorist financing. It opens the door for drug dealers. It opens the door for scammers. So now let me just use one example. If I had some money in Colombia that I need to get to the Bahamas, you know how you wrap it up in these bundles and give it to the speedboat? You don't need to do that now. I just upload it. I'll create a coin. $1,500 for me to create a coin. I'll create a coin, register the coin with these exchanges, right? And then buy some, put my currency up there, trade it for some other things, sell that in the Bahamas, and then redeem my currency in Colombia when they come for cash. So technically, I've just transferred the Bitcoins into the Bahamas or whatever, and I could now legitimately say, look, I bought this Bitcoin, and the bank would say, oh, that's from this nice exchange that's regulated. And I walk into the bank with $2 million that I just got a cash from FTX and deposited. And then what I did is I reverse engineered, and now people who show themselves up in Colombia with my coin or any other part of the world, I now give them cash. That's the problem with it. This is why they want regulation of the cryptocurrency, because it opens the door. Russia now is using it. Iran is using it. North Korea is using cryptocurrencies. And so again, here is these major companies, major infrastructure can't stop the corruption that comes with cryptocurrencies. And we created a sign that says, come to the Bahamas and deal in cryptocurrencies, you're safe. And we see the end result of that.
In the words of Perry Christie, this was a teachable moment. An expensive one, but a teachable moment all the same.
But let's take the break. I can take the break and I'll come back and tell you what we could do. Just to touch on it because it takes so long, what we could do to fix the problem.
And then we want to turn our attention to another subject that I'm sure you're going to get all excited about, that is now being pushed by our Prime Minister and his delegation all the way in Egypt. We're going to talk more about that on the other side of the break. Stay with us.
Blood sugar levels play a key role in your appetite, weight gain, and overall health. When you have a blood sugar spike, you can feel confused, dizzy, and even have increased cravings. Eating carbohydrates, sugary or fatty foods, and not exercising can all cause blood sugar spikes. But now you have help in managing blood sugar levels. Sweeties by Longevity was designed to help support healthy blood sugar levels so you can power through your day. It's a synergistic blend of minerals, herbs, and nutrients that have been proven to support healthy blood sugar levels. Sweeties includes chromium, an essential trace mineral that's known for its contribution to healthy blood sugar levels and improved metabolism of carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. Cinnamon bark has been included for its naturally occurring antioxidants and support of a healthy heart. And we've even added gymnema. It's been used in Ayurveda for centuries to help promote healthy blood sugar. All the ingredients in Sweeties work together to give the best support available for blood sugar control. Sweeties, the blood sugar support supplement from Longevity that helps control cravings and manage blood sugar levels through your day. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
Welcome to Sunshine Auto, the hardest place on the planet for a rims, paints, and tires.
We are your auto superstore for rims, Lexani, Azaras, Trueform, Western, Lux, fuel, track life, tough, rough racing, velocity, mud, all-terrain, and low-profile tires, cars, homes, and commercial window tinting. At Sunshine Auto, we put God first and customer is king.
Blessed love.
As you age, factors like health, weight, diet, and lifestyle can all impact your bones, joints, and general mobility. Even everyday exercise can lead to wear and tear on your body. Over time, you might start to experience stiffness or pain due to damaged joints or connective tissue. Ultimate Glucogel by Youngevity was created to help you limit the effects of wear on your joints. It delivers a daily dose of collagen-rich gelatin your body needs for joint elasticity and maintenance. Ultimate Glucogel contains a 1-to-1 ratio of gelatin and glucosamine sulfate, which is a key building block of your bone matrix, cartilage, ligaments, tendons, and connective tissue. Gelatin's unique blend of amino acids not only help with muscle and joint health, but also has been shown to provide additional benefits for the brain, skin, and hair. Ultimate Glucogel. Natural, optimal daily support for joint health. To learn more, contact your Youngevity associate.
We are back. Welcome back to GPS Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. Michelle Malcolm in your company. And our guest today, even though today is an open line show, is C. Alan Johnson, because, you know, this week had some major developments as it relates to this FTX fallout and the implications for the Bahamas' reputation as a jurisdiction. The telephone numbers to call 3260271, 3260271, 3260272, 3260272, WhatsApp 8010271, 8010271. Quickly make the point you wanted to make, Seattle, and then we're going to turn around.
What we have to do is we have to use this opportunity to call for freedom of information, anti-corruption, integrity laws, the anti-competitive competition law, the antitrust laws, everything, about 6 different things. I can't do it on top of my head. All the laws we've been asking for, now is the opportunity. Secondly, all of those laws and the whole new economy of the world is built on digital. We have to demand that we want a bill to govern data, not talk about data, an actual bill, a data bill. And the second thing we want is we want a bill to allow for digitization of the economy. The 12 different models that the government has referenced are all digital economies that lays on top of digital, and it lays on top of energy. Energy is now digital. And we don't have time to go to that, but simply said is that if you want to pay 5 cents or less instead of the 50 cents for electricity, where you can turn on your AC and not turn it off, then you have to begin to agitate for these things, not allow them to make promises for us and then in the last year come with these so-called mock-up of bills. We have to have them do it now. And I'm sure Mr. Michael Pintard, the Prime Minister in waiting based on our system, we could get him to adopt to these policy positions and demand that the government do it now. And we'll make a determination that if the government doesn't do it with his agitation and help, then we will know that this decision that we have to make come 2026.
Okay. So meanwhile, in Egypt, Prime Minister Philip Davis and his technocrats are pushing blue carbon credits and how the Bahamas could be a benefit because of our wealth of blue carbon credits. He and Anthony Ferguson are, Anthony Ferguson being part of the delegation that went to COP27, and they are today made representation about the Bahamas' wealth as it relates to blue carbon credits and what that could mean internationally. So first, let's begin with this clip from the Prime Minister, and then we will quickly follow the one with Anthony Ferguson, and then we're going to talk about it. So here's what the Prime Minister had to say as it relates to the Bahamas' resource of blue carbon credits.
We passed 2 pieces of legislation to regulate the space, the Climate Change and Carbon Markets Act, and the Carbon Credit Trading Act. As I mentioned in my national statement to the World Leaders Summit on Tuesday, other countries are already considering adopting our model. Today's event, we will share information about how an integrated regional approach can maximize the benefits of low carbon trading for the benefit of the whole Caribbean. At the regional pre-COP meeting of the heads of government, which I hosted this summer, my fellow leaders reached a strong consensus that these are important issues for the Caribbean. While there are opportunities, there are also challenges. So by working together, hopefully, we can take best advantage of one and overcome the other. We must also engage strongly with the private sector and other local stakeholders. Regional leaders also highlighted the need for simplicity and flexibility with the instruments using in carbon markets, especially in relation to carbon pricing. Protocols should also be agreed around the effective use of revenues, application of measurements, reporting and verification standards, and the avoidance of practices such as greenwashing. We believe that our approach in the Bahamas is a gold standard.
Okay, so C. Allen, before you jump in on what do you think of the Prime Minister's comments, I'm going to also play the comments made by Anthony Ferguson, who is the government's director of carbon management, the government's director of carbon management limited, I believe it is, who was talking about the value of the blue carbon credits in the Bahamas. Listen to what he had to say.
The total ocean economy is probably worth about $30 trillion. These are independent of our team suggesting this. So the point is there are lots of opportunities for us here in the Bahamas. And what we've decided with the direction of the government is that we want to design our asset, a natural asset, on three principles. One, biodiversity, of course the climate, but more importantly, impacting the community. And as such, we have developed some what we call governance principles on how the assets will be managed. One, of course, is the reduction of greenhouse gas, restoration and improvement of our economy and of our natural assets, conservation, protection, enhancement of our biodiversity, implementation and enforcement, and then, of course, the most important for me is the community co-benefit, where we're impacting lives in the various islands of the Bahamas. And so, what we want to do is make sure that everything we do, we spoke about the governance, is transparent. Transparency, we believe, brings value plus liquidity. And as such, we have identified a new asset class that we see taking shape over the next many years. As you know, ESG investments topped over $2 trillion last year. So we believe that in the several years, you would have this new asset class called natural assets. Now, within that natural asset class, there will be sell allocations. In the Bahamas, while we want to sell carbon credits, we want to sell carbon certificates. Certificates include all of the additionalities of biodiversity that we have.
All right, C. Allen, your thoughts?
More jokes.
What? More what?
More jokes.
Why you say that?
There's two things I've done in my life for the last 40 years. The environment and technology. You could go back to 2003 and 2 before the hurricane, where I was in a fight with Bahama Rock concerning the destruction they were doing on Grand Bahama. Not a whole conversation for another day, where I spoke about carbon credits. Jeffrey Lloyd and I spoke about it in 2003, 4, 5, and 6 on his show on another radio station before Ortland Bodie took over, when people didn't even know in the Bahamas what carbon credits were. I spoke about the same grass, seagrass. I spoke about it. They now came with this wonderful discovery that is, for me, it's a marketed discovery, that this guy went around with a camera on a shark, and the shark went around and documented the seagrass. Garbage. Pure garbage. The shark didn't go around to discover the Bahamas, the largest seagrass. Individuals in this country have been talking about the seagrass, the coppice, and the mangroves for decades, at least 2 decades that I've been home and involved with them. I've worked with companies and governments around the world that documented natural resources before I came back home 20 years ago. When people ask me, how do I know so much about natural resources over maybe as much as 100 or more in the Bahamas, including the caves, the blue holes, and all of these different things, I'm cursed with a good memory, and I read every report on my country that I loved so much. The oldest living organism on Earth in the Exuma Keys, the stromatolites or stromatolites, the fact that the blue holes, the largest concentration of blue holes in the Bahamas, that holds the beginning of life on Earth in these caves that we've been destroying and having mining companies dig and destroy these. There's no price you can put on it. People could Google the crystal caves of the Bahamas. The Nature Conservatory, a few years ago in one of their reports, said that the Bahamas was generating between $8 and $12 billion worth of carbon credits that was unrealized. That's a combination of the sea, the mangroves, the coppice, and all the things that we do, and even the untouched carbon footprint that we do. The report also said that we were a major contributor, and this is why what this government is doing is pure hypocrisy, and the people who is destroying this planet knows a hypocrite when they see one, because they know in that speech Mr. Davis made. Go back, listen to me. When Mr. Davis said that he'll be exploring for oil, I looked on the ground because my joint had dropped. At least I said it must have dropped because I must have been smoking. That this man was at COP 27 saying he's gonna drill for oil, and we're gonna find out how much oil is there, and then we're gonna cap it, and we're gonna make you all pay us, or we're gonna pump it. This is a country that's about to disappear from the use of carbon. It's right there on the table. I'm not making this up. We are going around the world registering cruise ships, okay, to be in the Bahamas, one of the greatest polluters in the world. They don't just pollute the air. A cruise ship parked in the harbor produces as much carbon filth and thing as 1 million cars running.
So why do you think that what they are saying? I hear all of that.
No, I'm saying, listen to me. You know why? You ever heard a leader go on the world stage, and no matter what they say, you never hear somebody else come after him and say, "Yes." They just go, yeah, and they dismiss you. You have had plenty of lunatics on the world stage, but they, out of courtesy, they listen to them. But what happens is they judge us by our actions and our behavior. You can't have conflicting and convoluted conversations in regards to carbon credit when your life depends on it.
So Anthony Ferguson is a brilliant businessman.
Not environmentalist.
Yeah. So do you believe that his business acumen will not be sufficient for him to advise our government based on a business perspective what is the right approach to taking advantage of these blue carbon credits?
You think he's running a nonprofit?
Say it again.
You think he's running a nonprofit? This is the NGO arm of his business, or this is no. I'm saying this is his business that he looked to make money.
So you're asking a question, or are you making a statement?
No, I'm making a statement. I'm saying to you, he will push it. Now the question is this: if the government of the Bahamas was serious, the Bahamian people has been asking for a sovereign wealth fund, not that garbage bill they tabled about 3 weeks ago, that gives them the ability to assign and divvy up and PPP. Listen to me, man, carefully. Let's pretend we only have 1 million acres of land left, beachfront and everything. If you actually take 50,000 of those acres of that 1 million acres and put it in a sovereign wealth fund, put a wholesale value, not for sale, a development value of $300,000 on that 50,000 acres, you have just raised $15 billion. You just raised that. You can tokenize it. You know, we got the digital bill. See, what happens is this is about control. What happens is the world leaders around the world is saying that one of the major speakers on carbon says the one thing that is missing in this conversation for the last decade has been data. Remember, data, we said we don't have data laws. The Bahamas government says, well, we'll sell the stuff and then figure out the data and the science. It's just what I'm saying to you. This is so convoluted and conflated. Yes, they could sell whatever and make some money, but it will not benefit the Bahamian people because, in fact, they can't tell us where the money's going to go. They say, I mean, I get so angry at this because there's so much garbage I've heard from our leaders, and we over here going,
So will it be the same players making money again?
Same players, and we won't see any of it because it'll go in the consolidated fund, so we don't have to grow the economy. We got $600 million coming in, controlling the consolidated fund. We must have change in this Bahamas because we can't have to do the same thing and get a different result. If the prime minister of the government and this is Anthony Ferguson, is an ideal sovereign asset management company. But here's what happens. Let's take away the authority of the wasteful 5-year celebrities and give our assets to a sovereign wealth fund. A sovereign wealth fund is simply a holding company. It says we will assign all assets in the Bahamas, no matter what it is, sand, aragonite, seagrass, mangroves, airspace, water lanes, everything. We can start getting them cruise ships to pay for traveling and polluting through our water now. It says we will assign all assets in the Bahamas, known and unknown, seen and unseen, tangible and intangible, to a sovereign wealth fund. That's it. That's all a sovereign wealth fund does is a can. You put your coin in the can. Now you hire a sovereign asset management company who will look to exploit that for profit. But you don't get paid for what you do. You get paid for what you make above and beyond what we could get on our own. Let's use an example. Let's use Mr. Anthony Ferguson's exact example. If I was to win the lottery tomorrow, $10 million, I will go to Mr. Anthony Ferguson and say to him, here's my $10 million. He will not get a dime for my $10 million, even though I give it to him. The only money he will make from the $10 million is the value he adds to the $10 million, not the $10 million. So he don't get 10% listen, I love when these people call your show and say, we should give them to somebody and we could get 15% or we could get 50%. Well, you own 100% now. This is what a sovereign asset management does. A sovereign asset management takes your asset and see how they can improve upon it and maximize it and take a percentage. Mr. Anthony Ferguson, if he makes $1 million using my $1 million, he takes a percentage of the million. He don't touch my 10 million. He takes a percentage of the million.
Mm-hmm.
So I still have the $10 million and the additional money he made for me. That's what sovereign asset management do. I think we should look for sovereign asset management capabilities within the Bahamas. But we must take away this abuse of political abuse of family, friends, lovers, and other things that got us into trouble, that has damaged our reputation, because they got us down as crooks, if you put it. We did pirating, we did rum running, we did gun running, we did drug running. Can we at least now do honest business? Can we break this generational curse of thievery or whatever it is that we do? We can't pass this on to the other generations. This is the opportunity we have. I said to you, we in the first convergence, the second digital revolution, third technology revolution, fourth industrial revolution, fifth social revolution. We have an opportunity now with the resources we have to transform the Bahamas into a metropolis. The places we talk about, Singapore and Qatar and all these different things. But it isn't what these political parties are saying, It is what good governance in the rest of the world is doing. And we have to stop allowing the noise in the marketplace get us to look away from the price of the fish. Bahamians must demand a sovereign wealth fund, the one that Mr. Warren Miller demanded before he became a PLP, and now they're in. We haven't heard from him. Isn't it funny that you go to a COPE, the biggest thing in town, and you don't take your environmental minister or your minister of state for the environment? It's not there.
Yeah, that is kind of fishy.
because what happens is it may go that his godly religious thing may not allow him to lie to us in full context. So the best thing to do is let him keep his mouth shut. And so the problem then becomes is that we cannot have the duplicitous nature that we have, where we are getting more cruise ship, trying to register planes, digging marinas all over the place, destroying mangroves to the tune of hundreds of thousands of acres. Let's just imagine this. According to that same report from the Nature Conservatory, I may be wrong on which one it was, but they said that we generated $4+ billion worth of carbon credits in East Grand Bahama, where we allowed hundreds of thousands of gallons of oil to be spilled into the water table, into the blue holes, into the crystal caves. Behemans, Google crystal caves of Grand Bahama or crystal cave of Abaco, and see that National Geographic said these caves are so valuable, we can't even put a number of money value on it. And we've let them spill millions of dollars worth of oil and hundreds of thousands worth of gallons of oil in East Grand Bahama.
And still not completely cleaned it up.
Listen to me, they still cleaning up for Exxon Valdez. And we're saying, oh, they went and sprayed in the front of their yard, so it's clean now. Do you know the company that did the damage is one of the most valuable companies on earth?
Yeah, they got money. They could do right.
So I'm simply saying that at minimum, they need to give us at least a few years of carbon credits we would have gotten. If we were getting $4 billion a year of carbon credits, then let's say it takes a decade or two. Then give us the $80 billion, $90 billion for the time it'll take for nature to correct the mistake that you did. But again, we let our leadership market to us the end results. Grand Bahama,
just for the record, because we run out of time, Alan. We run out of time, but just for the record, the nation which was responsible for that oil spill, Norway, they have one of the most successful
multi-trillion-dollar
sovereign wealth funds in the world.
Yes.
So they doing it.
Yeah.
You're nation.
Right. You're born a millionaire in Norway.
But they're using our nation to dump their oil.
There you go. And so what I'm simply saying is
you got to wrap this up.
No, I'm simply saying is these are things we have to become informed about governance. Take an interest in politics, because sure enough, politics have taken an interest in you. We have the ability to lobby better than the 10 people in the food store, 10 people in the car place, 10 people in whatever, because there is 200,000 of us as registered voters. We must come together and stop being divided.
Gotta let you go. Thank you so much, C. Allen. I really appreciate you, but I gotta make this announcement before we get out of here. Thank you, C. Allen, and thank you to everybody who participated in this TGIF Open Line show. This announcement on Friday, November 18th, Global 99.5 FM will do a live broadcast, bring you a live broadcast from Robinson Road, incorporating Shelley Lewis, myself, Michelle Malcolm, and we are going to be doing a Stop the Violence Peace on the Streets broadcast next week, Friday, as part of our TGIF tradition. Various organizations and businesses and residents will be participating in that show. So make sure you do not miss next week, Friday. Okay? That's my time, y'all. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. I'm out of here. And I want to encourage you guys to be safe, love on each other. And let's remember that we only got this one Bahamas, this one land the Lord gave us. Let's take care of it and take care of each other. Until next week, have a good weekend. Take care.
Global 99.5 FM reminds